The night smelled of smoke and fear. The alien girl walked between her parents, her small hands tied with rough rope. She did not know where they were taking her, but her heart already knew it was not home. She was 16, old enough to sense betrayal, young enough to still hope that maybe it was a mistake, but it was not. The path led to the slave market outside the city walls. The stars above blinked coldly, as if they too had turned away. The girl stumbled, her bare feet cut by sharp stones, but her father only pulled the rope harder. Her mother did not look at her. Not once, she whispered, her voice shaking. "Mother, please, where are we going?" No answer, only silence. The silence was worse than shouting. When they reached the gates, the smell hit her first, sweat, dirt, and the metallic sting of fear. Inside, dozens of cages lined the road, filled with alien children, women, and broken men. Chains rattled, voices cried out, and merchants barked prices as if selling animals. The girl froze, but her father shoved her forward. The truth cut deeper than any knife. Her family was selling her. Her chest tightened. She begged in a broken whisper, "Please, I can work harder at home. I can do anything. Don't leave me here." Her mother's eyes flickered, but then turned away again. Her father spat on the ground. "You are worth more to us here than at home. Worth, not love. Not daughter. Worth." The guards laughed as the family handed her over. Rough hands grabbed her arms, pulling her away. She screamed, but her parents never looked back. In moments, she was pushed into a wooden cage, the iron lock snapping shut. The auction began. The slave master lifted her chin with a stick, showing her face to the crowd. "Look here," he shouted. "Young, strong enough, not yet broken. Find servant or pet for your house." The crowd jeered, some laughed, some shouted numbers. The girl clutched the bars, her eyes wide. She could not believe this was real. Her parents had walked away. They were gone. She was alone. The bidding started low, and she prayed no one would buy her. Maybe the guards would forget her. Maybe she could escape in the dark. But the voices grew louder, the numbers higher. Among the crowd, one figure did not join the noise. A human. He stood at the back, tall and quiet, his arms crossed. His face was hidden under the shadow of his hood, but his eyes never left the cage. He watched as the girl trembled, as the merchant forced her to stand, as the crowd argued over her price. He did not smile. He did not laugh. He only watched. The girl noticed him, her heart skipping. Humans rarely came to these markets. They were strange, dangerous, and often despised by other species. Why was he here? Why was he staring at her? The bidding slowed. Another man shouted one last price. The merchant raised his hand, ready to close the deal. The girl's breath caught. This was it. Her life was gone, and then, wait! The human's voice cut through the crowd like a blade. Deep, steady, unshaken. All heads turned. The merchant blinked. "Do you wish to bid, stranger?" The human stepped forward slowly. His boots crunched on the dusty ground. From the shadows, his eyes gleamed hard and unyielding. He raised his hand. The crowd murmured. Some laughed. A human? Buying one of them? Waste of credits. He'll regret it, the girl's chest pounded. She didn't understand. Why now? Why her? The bidding rose again, some trying to challenge him, but his voice was calm, cold, final. More. Every time another price was shouted, he answered with one word. More, until silence. No one dared to challenge further. The merchant grinned wide, banging his staff against the ground. Sold to the human. The cage door creaked open. The guards dragged the girl forward, shoving her into the stranger's reach. She stumbled, almost falling. His hand caught her wrist, firm but not cruel. She lifted her eyes to him. His face was rough, scarred, with eyes that looked like storms. She waited for the pain, the chains, the harsh command. But instead he said nothing, only a single glance. A glance that was not cruel. Her lips parted, confusion swirling with fear. Was she saved? Or had she just been bought by someone far more dangerous? The crowd whispered, their laughter fading into unease. The human led her away, his grip steady, his silence louder than any shout. Behind them, the market noise returned. But for the girl, the world had changed forever. Her family was gone. Her chains were real, and the only hope she had left was a human she did not understand. The girl's wrist still stung from the rope burns as the human led her out of the market. She expected the next step, chains, collars, cruel orders. That was how it always went. The slave master's laughter still echoed in her ears, but the human said nothing. His grip was strong, yet not painful. He walked with long, steady strides, as if he did not care about the eyes burning into his back. The crowd parted for him. Whispers followed. Why waste credits on her? Humans always meddle. Maybe he wants to break her himself. The girl's stomach twisted. She dared not speak. If she angered him, he could be worse than all the others. He had bought her. That meant she belonged to him now. When they reached the edge of the market, the noise faded. The night air was cooler here, carrying the faint scent of rain. The girl looked around. No guards, no walls. For the first time, escape seemed possible. Her legs shook with the thought. She could run. She could vanish into the dark. She tensed, ready to try. But before she could move, the human stopped. Don't. The word was low, calm, but it froze her. He hadn't even turned his head. Yet somehow he knew. Her breath caught. You'll kill me if I try, she whispered. Finally, he faced her. His eyes were strange, gray like storm clouds, unreadable. No, I'll let you run. But the world will kill you faster than I ever could. She stared, speechless. What kind of master said such words? He released her wrist. Just like that. The rope fell away, dropping into the dirt. The girl rubbed her arms, confused. Why did you buy me then? He didn't answer immediately. He started walking again, slower this time, as if waiting for her to follow. His silence was heavy, but not cruel. She hesitated, then stepped behind him, still afraid, yet more afraid of being left alone. They reached a small camp at the edge of the forest. A fire burned low, and beside it sat a bag and a bedroll. The human dropped onto a log and gestured to the ground across from him. Sit. The girl obeyed quickly, clutching her knees. The firelight flickered on her face, making her look even smaller. He reached into the bag and pulled out a wrapped piece of food, flat bread and dried meat. Without a word, he tossed it to her. Her hands shook as she caught it. She sniffed it, suspicious, but hunger clawed her stomach. Slowly, she bit into it. Warmth filled her chest and tears burned her eyes. Days had passed since she last ate real food. She looked up at him. Why? He shrugged. You're hungry, her lips trembled. Masters don't feed slaves like this. I'm not your master. The words hit her like a shock. She froze, the bread half-eaten in her hands. Then, what am I to you? She whispered. The human leaned back, his gaze fixed on the fire. That's what I'm trying to decide. The silence stretched, filled only by the crackle of flames and the distant call of night creatures. The girl studied him carefully. His face was scarred, yes, but there was no cruelty in his eyes. He carried himself like a soldier, not a slaver. Still, she could not trust easily. If I am not your slave, then why did you pay for me? He finally looked at her again. His voice was steady. Because no one else in that market was going to save you. And sometimes, it's worth spending everything to take something away from monsters. Her throat closed. She didn't understand this man. No one risked credits for kindness. No one saved people like her, she whispered. You could have walked away. I could have, he agreed. But I didn't, the fire crackled louder. Almost like the world itself was listening. For the first time since the cage door closed, the girl felt a sliver of something she thought she had lost forever. Hope, but even hope carried danger. She pulled her knees tighter. So what happens now? The human leaned forward, his expression unreadable. Now you stay close. You learn to listen. And maybe, if you want, you learn how to survive. His words were not chains. They were an invitation. But could she trust him? Could she trust any human? She glanced at the forest shadows. Somewhere in that darkness, hunters and bandits waited. Her family had already betrayed her. Her world had already abandoned her. All she had left was this strange human. The girl swallowed hard and whispered, Then I will stay. The human nodded once, as if he expected nothing less. He pulled his cloak tighter and leaned back against the log. The fire burned lower. The night deepened. And though she was free to run, the girl did not move. For the first time, she was not in a cage. For the first time, someone had chosen her, not as a slave, but as something else she could not yet name. But in the silence of the night, she wondered, had she stepped from one kind of danger into another? The morning came with a pale gray sky. The girl opened her eyes slowly, still unsure if last night had been real. For the first time in weeks, she had slept without iron bars around her. She was wrapped in a rough blanket the human had tossed at her before closing his eyes near the dying fire. She sat up, clutching the blanket. Her eyes moved to the man. He was already awake. His back was turned to her as he sharpened a long blade with steady, patient strokes. The sound of steel against stone filled the silence. Fear crawled back into her chest. A blade that sharp could cut her down in a breath. Why had she trusted sleep near him? The human spoke without looking at her. "Eat." She jumped at the sound of his voice. He pointed to a small pack beside her. Inside lay a piece of bread and dried fruit. She grabbed it quickly, her stomach growling. He finally turned to face her. His expression was unreadable. "You're no use to anyone if you starve." She froze. The words sounded practical, cold. Was that all she was to him? Some tool he needed fed? Her eyes narrowed, testing him. "Then I am still your property." For a moment, silence hung. Then, to her surprise, the human's mouth curved in something that almost looked like a smile, though it was small, bitter. "You're not my property," he said. "But if you wander off, others will make you theirs again." She hugged her knees, chewing the food slowly. The truth was hard. Out there in the wild, she had no chance. At least with him, there was some kind of protection. Even if she did not fully understand it, the human rose to his feet. His movements were quiet but heavy with strength. He strapped the blade to his belt and adjusted his cloak. "We move. Where?" she asked. "Somewhere safer than here." He began walking into the forest, not waiting for her. The girl hesitated before following. Each step felt like a choice. She could run into the trees, vanish, but the memory of the market, the laughter, the hands dragging her away. It kept her close to him. Hours passed. The forest was dark and alive with sounds she did not know. Strange insect clicks, distant howls. Her people rarely came here. It was said the woods were cursed. But the human walked as if he had lived here all his life, steady and unafraid. At last she whispered, "You know these lands?" He glanced back at her once. "I know danger, and how to walk through it." Something about the way he said it sent shivers down her spine. As the day deepened, the girl grew bolder. "Why are you helping me? You could have left me there. You spent so many credits." "For nothing." The human stopped. His eyes scanned the trees, listening for sounds she couldn't hear. Only when he was certain it was safe did he speak. "I don't like watching people get broken," he said finally. "And that's all that market does, break people." The girl swallowed. His words felt strange in her ears. Kindness from strangers was a myth. Yet here it was, standing before her. But before she could reply, the forest shifted. The human raised a hand sharply. "Quiet," the girl froze. She heard it too, the snap of twigs, heavy steps. Shadows moved between the trees. From the darkness, 3 figures emerged. Slavers. Their armor was dented, their weapons crude but deadly. "Well, well," one of them sneered. "Looks like we found ourselves a runaway prize." And her human pet. The girl's blood ran cold. She stumbled back, terror gripping her. These men were worse than her family, worse than the market. The human stepped forward, placing himself between her and them. His hand rested on the hilt of his blade. "She's not yours," the slavers laughed. "Everything here is ours if we take it." "Step aside, human, before you get cut down." The girl's heart pounded. She waited for him to move, to give her up. Why would he risk his life for her? But he did not move. His stance widened, his eyes sharp as steel. "Try." The word carried no shout, no anger, just certainty. The slavers exchanged glances. Then they charged. The forest exploded with sound. Metal clashing, grunts, the hiss of blades cutting air. The girl screamed, ducking behind a tree. Her hands shook as she watched the human fight. He moved like flowing water, every strike deliberate, every block precise. His blade cut through the first slaver's weapon, sending sparks into the air. A second man lunged, but the human twisted, elbow cracking into his jaw. It was not a brawl. It was survival, honed by years of blood. The girl could not look away. She had never seen anyone fight like this. Not for wealth, not for glory, but for something else, something stronger. In minutes, the slavers lay broken on the ground, groaning and beaten. The human stood over them, his chest rising and falling, his blade dripping red. He did not look at her right away. He only wiped the blade clean on one slaver's cloak before sheathing it. Then finally his eyes met hers. "You see now?" he said, voice steady. "You walk alone and they will take you. You stay with me and they will bleed before they touch you." Her breath caught. The forest was silent again, except for her racing heart. Slowly, she stepped out from behind the tree. For the first time, she believed him. The human was dangerous. But he was dangerous for her, not against her. And that made all the difference. The bodies of the beaten slavers still lay in the dirt when the human motioned for the girl to move. His voice was calm but sharp, like steel cutting through fog. "We cannot stay here. Others will come." The girl's legs trembled as she followed him deeper into the forest. Her mind replayed the fight. How easily he cut them down. How his eyes stayed cold even when blood splashed his cloak. She had seen warriors before, but none like him. He fought not for power or cruelty. He fought like a shield, not a blade. And for the first time she wondered if maybe she was safe, but safety was fragile. By evening they reached a hidden clearing beside a river. The water glimmered silver under the fading sun. The human crouched, filling a small flask. The girl sank to the ground, hugging herself. Her voice was low, almost broken. "They will not stop. The market will send more." The human looked up. His expression was unreadable. "I know." Her chest tightened. "Then why save me? You put yourself in danger. They will hunt you now." He sat on a rock, eyes fixed on the horizon. "Because some things are worth danger." She blinked, stunned. "Me? I am nothing. My own family sold me." His gaze hardened. "Then they were fools." The words struck her deeper than any wound. No one had ever said she was worth anything. She looked away, tears burning her eyes. Before she could reply, the forest shifted again. Birds scattered, branches snapped. The human rose instantly, blade already in his hand. The girl froze, heart hammering. "Is it more of them?" From the trees emerged a larger group, 5 slavers this time, their armor marked with the brand of the market. At their center walked a tall figure draped in dark cloth, his face hidden by a mask of bone. The girl's breath caught. She knew that mask. Every slave did. It belonged to the collector, the market's hunter. He was the one sent to drag back runaways. He was the reason no one ever escaped. The collector's voice was low, almost playful. "You killed my men. You cost me credits." His head tilted, bone mask gleaming. "And you stole my property." The girl shrank back, terror flooding her veins. The human stepped forward, blade steady. "She was never yours." The collector chuckled, a hollow sound. Brave words for a human so far from his own kind. "Do you know what happens to those who stand against the market?" The human did not flinch. "They bleed, just like the rest of you." The slavers laughed, raising their weapons. The collector lifted a hand, silencing them. His mask turned toward the girl. "You know me, child. You know what I do. Tell your savior what becomes of runaways." The girl's lips trembled. She whispered, "No one escapes you." The collector nodded slowly. "Correct. And you, little one, will not be the first." Her hands shook. She wanted to scream, to run, but her eyes darted to the human. He stood like an unbroken wall, his stance unshaken, his blade ready. The collector's voice deepened. "Step aside, human. Give me the girl and I will let you live." For a moment, silence stretched. Even the river seemed to hold its breath. Then the human spoke, his words like iron. "You'll have to take her from me." The collector laughed again, the sound twisting through the trees. "So be it." He raised his hand and his slavers surged forward. The clash was instant, steel against steel, roars against silence. The girl stumbled back, pressing against a tree, watching with wide, terrified eyes. The human moved like before, fast, precise, brutal. One slaver fell, his chest split open. Another screamed as the human's blade cut deep. But there were too many. Every time he struck one down, another took his place. The collector watched calmly, as if amused. The girl's heart raced. She wanted to help, but she was weak, useless. All she could do was watch as the human's blade slowed, his breaths growing heavier. Blood marked his arm where a slaver's weapon had cut him. "Enough!" The collector's voice boomed. He stepped forward, drawing a curved blade from beneath his cloak. "Let me show you what happens to heroes." The human steadied himself, sweat glistening on his brow. He looked at the girl, only for a moment, and his words were not for the collector, but for her. "Run if I fall." Her chest tightened. "No," but he had already turned, meeting the collector's strike. Steel clashed. Sparks lit the night. The collector's strength was monstrous, each blow heavy enough to shatter bone. The human blocked, parried, countered, but his wound slowed him. The girl's eyes filled with tears. She could not watch him die. Not after he had given her hope. Not after he had fought for her. Something inside her broke, the fear, the chains, the years of silence. She grabbed a fallen slaver's weapon, a short knife, her hands shaking. Her mind screamed she was weak, but her heart said otherwise. For the first time, she did not wait to be saved. The collector's blade came down again and again, sparks flying as steel met steel. The human staggered, blood dripping from his arm, yet he refused to yield. His gray eyes were steady, his stance unbroken, even against the monstrous strength of the masked hunter. The girl's breath came fast. Every strike felt like it landed on her chest. She could hear her heart pounding, louder than the clash of blades. She saw the cut on the human's arm deepen, saw his cloak rip apart, saw his jaw tighten against the pain. If he fell, she would be taken back. Back to chains, back to the cage, back to the market. No, she whispered, tears stinging her eyes. Her gaze dropped to the knife clutched in her trembling hands. A weak blade, small and rusted. But it was all she had. Fear screamed at her to stay still. But something stronger rose inside her. Something the human had lit in her without even knowing. Hope. She tightened her grip. When one of the slavers lunged at the human's back, she moved. Her feet pounded the dirt faster than she had ever run. The slaver never saw her coming. With a cry, half fear and half fury, she drove the knife into his side. The man roared in shock, stumbling back, clutching at the wound. The girl fell to her knees, gasping. Her hands shook violently, blood staining her fingers. She had never held a weapon before. She had never struck anyone. Her chest burned with terror, but also with something else. A strange fire, the human's voice cut through the chaos. Good, she looked up startled. He had seen her strike. His eyes met hers, a flicker of pride burning in them. Then he turned back to the collector, raising his blade once more. The collector tilted his head, amused. The pet bites, he mocked. Do you think this changes anything, human? She is still weak. You are still dying. But the human's stance grew firmer, his strikes sharper. The girl's action had done more than wound a slaver. It had shifted the battle. The collector's slavers hesitated now, wary of the trembling girl who dared to strike. She rose slowly to her feet, knife shaking in her grip. Fear still clung to her, but now she stood beside the human instead of hiding behind him. The collector snarled under his mask. Fools, both of you. He lunged forward, blade sweeping in a deadly arc. The human blocked, sparks flying. The ground trembled under their clash. The girl darted around them, her knife clutched tight. She saw another slaver creeping closer, weapon raised. Without thinking, she threw herself forward, slashing wildly. The blade cut his arm, shallow but enough to make him scream and drop his weapon. The human moved like a storm, cutting down the distracted man in a single strike. The battle raged, but something had changed. They were no longer one fighter and one frightened girl. They were two, unequal yes, but together. At last only the collector remained. His slavers lay broken on the ground, groaning or still. The masked hunter stood tall, his cloak torn, his bone mask cracked along one side. His voice was darker now, heavy with rage. You will regret this. The human tightened his grip, chest heaving. I regret nothing. The collector lunged. The clash shook the trees, steel screaming against steel. The girl darted, searching for an opening, a way to help. Every strike felt like thunder. The collector's strength was monstrous, but the human's will was harder than iron. Finally, with a roar, the human drove his shoulder into the collector's chest, forcing him back. The mask cracked further, revealing part of a scarred alien face beneath. The collector hissed, fury blazing. He slashed wildly, aiming for the girl this time. Her eyes widened. She froze. The blade gleamed, death racing toward her, and was stopped by steel. The human had stepped in front of her, his blade locking against the strike. The force nearly drove him to his knees, but he held. Run! He shouted, but she did not run. She could not anymore. Instead, with trembling strength, she raised her knife and drove it upward into the collector's side. The masked hunter roared, staggering back. His blade wavered, his movement slowing. The human seized the moment, his sword cutting across in a brutal arc. The collector's mask shattered as he fell, crashing into the dirt. Silence. The girl stood frozen, chest heaving, knife still slick with blood. Her entire body trembled, but she had not dropped the blade. The human turned, his chest rising and falling, sweat and blood covering him. His eyes softened as they met hers. "You didn't run," she shook her head, voice breaking. "Not again. Never again." For a moment neither spoke. Only the river's gentle sound filled the night. Then the human reached out, his scarred hand steady. "Then stay. Stay and learn. You're not weak, not anymore." Her throat tightened, tears spilling. Slowly she placed her shaking hand in his. For the first time in her life, she felt not like a slave, not like a burden, but like someone who mattered. The collector lay still in the dirt, his mask broken. But in that moment, the girl felt as if something inside her had broken too. The chains that had bound her heart, and from their pieces, something new was beginning. The collector's body lay still on the ground, his broken mask staring up at the sky. The forest was quiet again, but the silence was heavy, filled with the smell of blood and smoke. The girl stood beside the human, her knife still in her trembling hand. She had never felt her heart beat so hard. It was not only fear, it was something else. Something alive. She looked at him. We killed him." The human wiped his blade clean on the grass, his voice steady. "We survived. That is what matters." She wanted to collapse, to cry, to scream, but she forced herself to stay on her feet. She had struck the collector. She had made her choice not to run. And that choice changed everything. The human knelt briefly to check the collector's body. His gray eyes hardened. "He won't be the last. The market will not forgive this." The girl's chest tightened. She knew he was right. The collector was feared across the lands. If he had fallen, others would come, stronger, crueler. She swallowed hard. "Then what do we do?" The human stood, his scarred hand closing around his blade. "We make sure next time you can fight too." Her eyes widened. "Me?" He looked at her directly, his voice firm. "You can't depend on anyone to always save you. Not even me. If you want to stay alive, you must learn." Her hands shook, but slowly she nodded. Deep inside, something burned. Fear, yes, but also determination. She was tired of chains, tired of begging, tired of waiting to be saved. That night, under the flicker of firelight, her training began. The human started simple. "Hold it tighter," he said, adjusting her grip on the knife. His hand was rough and steady as he moved her fingers into place. "Not too tight. You're not strangling it, you're guiding it." The girl nodded, biting her lip. Her arms still trembled from the fight, but she forced herself to steady them. "Now," he continued, "aim low. You're smaller, use it. Don't try to fight strength with strength. You use speed. Weak points," he pointed at his own body, neck, ribs, knees. "Here, here, here." She practiced stabbing at the air, awkward at first, then sharper, faster. Each motion built a strange new rhythm in her body. The human circled her slowly, watching. His eyes missed nothing. Again. The word came again and again. She stabbed, she slashed, she blocked. Sweat dripped down her forehead, her arms aching. But she did not stop. Not when he was watching. Not when she remembered her parents handing her to the slavers. Not when she remembered the cage. Hours passed. Her breath grew ragged, but she kept moving. At last, he raised a hand. "Enough!" She collapsed onto the ground, gasping, her knife dropping beside her. Her body screamed with pain, but beneath the exhaustion, something stirred. Pride. He handed her a flask of water. "You did well." She looked up at him, startled. Praise. It was small. Simple. But it filled her chest with warmth. "Tomorrow," he said, sitting across from her, "we'll start with your feet. How to move. How to stay alive when someone bigger comes at you." She nodded weakly, clutching the flask. For the first time, she believed she could change. But the world outside was not silent. Far from the forest, in the heart of the market, word of the collector's death spread like wildfire. Traders whispered in fear. Buyers demanded answers. And in the shadowed hall, the master of chains, ruler of the slavers, listened with cold fury. He was defeated by a human, a trembling servant reported. And the girl he bought. The master's hand tightened around his staff. His voice was low, venomous. "Then bring them both to me. Alive if possible, broken if not." Across the city, hunters were summoned, mercenaries, bounty killers. Not just one or two, dozens. The master would not risk more humiliation. The hunt had begun. Back in the forest, the girl awoke to the sound of rustling leaves. The human was already awake, crouched low, scanning the trees. His blade was unsheathed, his face sharp with tension. She sat up quickly. "What is it?" He didn't look at her. "They've found our trail." Her stomach dropped. "The market?" He nodded once. "And they won't stop this time." The girl's chest pounded. She clutched her knife, her body still sore from training. Fear pressed against her, heavy and cold. But she remembered his words. "If you want to stay alive, you must learn." She forced herself to her feet. The human glanced at her, seeing the knife in her hand, the way her legs shook but did not bend. His scarred mouth twitched slightly, almost into a smile. "Stay close," he said. "And remember, weak points." The shadows of the hunters moved between the trees. The air thickened with the promise of blood. The girl's grip tightened. She was no longer just a captive, no longer a girl waiting for rescue. This time she would fight beside him. The night was alive with shadows. The girl stood beside the human, her knife trembling in her hand. Around them the forest whispered with danger, branches cracking, leaves shifting. Dozens of hunters moved through the trees, their torches glowing like fiery eyes. Her heart pounded. This was no small band of slavers. This was the full weight of the market's wrath. The human's voice was calm, steady. "They want us surrounded. They think fear will make us weak." The girl swallowed hard. "Will it?" He looked at her, gray eyes sharp. "Not tonight." The hunters stepped into the clearing, one by one, their armor glinting. At their front stood a tall alien with silver tattoos carved into his face, the mark of the Master's elite. His voice carried cold authority. "You killed the Collector. You think that makes you strong. But here, strength is numbers. Surrender the girl and we may spare your life, human." The girl's knees trembled. She wanted to scream, to cry, to beg the human not to fight. But when she looked at him standing tall, blade ready, something inside her shifted. She whispered almost to herself, "I will not go back." The human nodded once. "Then stand with me." The words wrapped around her like armor. She lifted her knife higher, her fear burning into something sharper. The leader sneered. "So be it, break them." The hunters charged. The clearing exploded with chaos. Steel clashed against steel, the air thick with roars and screams. The human moved like a storm, his blade flashing, cutting down the first wave with brutal precision. Every strike was survival, every block a promise. The girl darted at his side, smaller, faster. She remembered his lessons, weak points. Her knife slashed at knees, ribs, soft flesh. One hunter cried out as she drove the blade into his side. Another stumbled as she cut his leg. Her arms ached, her breath came ragged, but she did not stop. For every blow she landed, she grew stronger. For every strike she blocked, her fear broke further. Still, the numbers pressed in. The human bled from a cut on his shoulder, his cloak torn. His gray eyes burned with defiance, but even he could not fight forever. The leader stepped forward, drawing twin blades. His voice thundered, "End this." The human steadied himself. "Stay behind me," he ordered. But the girl shook her head. "Not this time." She ran forward before he could stop her. The leader swung, his blade slicing toward her head. She ducked low, rolling beneath the strike, and drove her knife into his leg. He roared in fury, stumbling. The human seized the opening, his sword flashing in a brutal arc. One of the leader's blades clattered to the ground. The fight turned savage. The leader struck with monstrous strength. But now it was not just the human's fight. The girl slashed, stabbed, distracted. Together they moved as one. At last, with a cry, the human's blade pierced the leader's chest. The alien staggered, silver tattoos glistening with blood, before collapsing into the dirt. Silence fell. The remaining hunters froze, fear flickering in their eyes. Their leader was dead. The Collector was gone. And before them stood not a broken girl and a reckless human, but two fighters bound by something stronger than chains. One by one, the hunters backed away, dragging their wounded with them. The firelight of their torches faded into the trees until only the night remained. The girl dropped to her knees, gasping, her knife slipping from her hand. Her body shook with exhaustion, but her eyes burned with triumph. The human crouched beside her, his hand resting lightly on her shoulder. "You fought well." Tears spilled down her cheeks. I thought I would always be weak." "You're not weak," he said quietly. "Not anymore. You chose to stand. That makes you stronger than all of them." She looked up at him, her chest tightening. "Why? Why risk your life for me?" His gray eyes softened. For a moment, the hard soldier was gone, and only the man remained. Because you deserved more than chains. Because no one deserves to be forgotten. The words broke her. Not with sorrow, but with something she had never known. Hope so strong it hurt. She leaned forward, resting her forehead against his chest. He did not pull away. His hand, scarred and steady, rested against her back. For the first time in her life, she was not a burden. Not a slave. Not a piece of property. She was someone who mattered. Someone who had chosen and been chosen in return. The fire crackled softly. The night was quiet again. The girl closed her eyes, whispering, "Then I will stay, always." The human's voice was low, certain. Then we walked together. And in the silence of the forest where chains had once bound her, the alien girl found something far greater than freedom. She had found love.